Most of the suffering we carry doesn't come from what's happening now. It comes from the stories we replay from the past and the fears we project into the future. But life, real life, only happens in one place, the present. In this lesson, we'll explore how to stop living in mental time and start living in eternal time. And we'll learn this not through theory, but through the way Jesus moved, breathed, and stayed connected to the now. Things you've already lived, but still hurt. Words that were spoken, decisions that can't be undone. And suddenly, you're back there, in what has already passed, but still weighs on you. In what was, but hasn't really gone. And your body is here, but your soul is somewhere else. Other times, it's not the past, it's the future. Your mind spins around what might happen. Fear of what's coming, doubt about what to do. The expectation of a moment that may never arrive. You live as if you're in debt to tomorrow, as if the present is just an interval. And before you realize it, the now is gone. You moved through it without touching it. It's common to live like this, stuck between two times that no longer exist, or don't exist yet. And that has a cost, not just emotionally, but spiritually. Because while your mind runs, your soul weakens. While you revisit the past or project the future, the present empties out. And it's in the present that life actually happens. Anxiety is hunger for control over the future. Guilt is pain for not having controlled the past. And in both cases, you feel small, powerless, disconnected from your own existence. You look inward and can't find yourself. You look outward and feel like you're behind. And that creates a strange silence, an emptiness that slowly grows. Maybe that's why so many people feel tired, not physically tired. It's a soul tiredness from staying too long in places where the soul can't live. Because the past, as much as it teaches, is not a home. And the future, as much as it seduces, is not shelter. You were made for the now, but not just any now. The now where God dwells. There is something in you that isn't bound by time, a deeper place, quieter, truer, a point inside you where the hours don't rule, where what matters is not what was, or what will be, but what is, what pulses, breathes and moves, right here. To call it presence is too little. It's more than attention, more than focus. It's the eternal touching your humanity. It's when you stop surviving in thought and start living with awareness, not chasing after life anymore, but aligning with it. And this isn't theory, it's something you felt, even without a name, in those brief seconds when everything stopped. When time slowed down, in a glance, a song, a prayer, that peace you didn't understand, but felt, that presence that found you effortlessly. That is the eternal in you. But the mind doesn't like the eternal. It needs past and future to justify itself. It feeds on comparison, on plans, on memories, and you learn to live more in the idea of life than in life itself. And that steals your clarity. And stealing clarity, it steals peace. And without peace, everything feels heavier. You can appear fine, do everything right, and still live out of sync. You wake up tired, even after sleeping. Feel a strange weight in your chest, even without reason. And that's not weakness. It's just a sign, a quiet request to come back to what's real. Maybe you've tried to solve everything with more effort, more control, more planning, but what's missing isn't strength, it's presence. It's reconnecting with what's alive now, without trying to change the past, without trying to rush the future, just allowing yourself to exist. Jesus lived like that, not because he ignored time, but because he knew the time of the Father. He knew when to speak, when to wait, when to act. And where did that wisdom come from? From connection, from surrender, from presence. He said, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Matt 6:34. Not because tomorrow is bad, but because if you lose today, you lose everything. Now is where grace operates, where faith breathes, where the eternal reveals itself. You don't have to understand this, you just have to remember. Because when you remember, you return. You return to your center. You return to God. And in that place, the past stops hurting. The future loses its power to scare you, and you begin to truly live. Present, whole, awake, here, now. And that's what we're going to talk about next. How to step out of mental time and into real time. How to leave the when and the if and return to the I am. How to live awake even when the world tries to distract you, and how Christ teaches us that with his life, his presence, and his silence. Living in the present is one of the hardest things to do, not because the present is difficult, but because the mind has been trained to live anywhere else. You wake up, and before you've taken your first conscious breath, you're already in yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's pressures. The body is here, but the heart is scattered, and that disconnection creates tension you carry without realizing. The real meaning of this theme is not poetic, it's urgent. When you are Not fully present, you live halfway. You react instead of respond. You numb instead of feel. You exist, but you don't inhabit your life. And this becomes normal. The disconnection becomes a habit. Until one day you no longer remember how to feel whole. What blocks us from living this truth fully is often invisible. It's the way we over-identify with thoughts. We believe every story the mind tells. We chase perfection in the future, or replay regret from the past. We try to figure it all out before giving ourselves permission to be here. But being present is not a reward. It's a return, a remembering of what's real. Jesus lived in full alignment with the present moment. He never rushed, even when others were in a hurry. He never let the past define him, even when others did. And he didn't fear the future, even when it held a cross. His presence was his power. He moved slowly, intentionally, with clarity and compassion. He showed us that presence is not passivity, it's authority rooted in peace. In John 5:19, he says, "The Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees the Father doing." That level of discernment doesn't come from strategy. It comes from presence, from listening inwardly before acting outwardly, from living in union with the eternal now of the Father. Not projecting ahead, not replaying behind, just being with God, moment by moment. That's what kept him strong. You might notice how hard it is to stay in the now. You're watching this and still thinking of something else, planning your next task, worrying about something undone. And it's not your fault. It's just how we've been conditioned. But becoming aware of it is the first door back to yourself, back to God. The enemy of presence is fragmentation. When your attention is divided, your power weakens, and life begins to feel too fast, too loud, too much. You lose clarity, you lose peace. You start reacting to everything as if it were urgent. But Jesus never lived in urgency. He lived in rhythm. Think of presence like spiritual breathing. You can't hold your breath from the past. You can't inhale from the future. Only now can fill your lungs. And in the same way, only now can fill your soul. This is why Jesus often withdrew to quiet places, not to escape, but to realign, to breathe again with the Father. Sometimes, I ask myself, if I were with Jesus today, would I recognize his pace, or would I rush past him, too distracted to notice? Would I have the awareness to sit, listen, and simply be with him? Or would I miss the eternal moment, chasing the illusion of the next one? That question wakes me up. Your life is not a project to be optimized. It's a sacred experience to be lived fully. You don't have to fix your past to be present. You don't have to predict your future to feel safe. You only have to come back to this breath, this moment, and let God meet you here. Because he's not in your worry, he's in your now. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Not when it's all figured out, not when you've earned it, but now. Be still, not passive, but rooted. Be still, not absent, but aware. Because stillness is the place where knowing begins, where you meet the eternal inside your ordinary. Living in the now doesn't mean forgetting your story. It means not being held hostage by it. It means letting go of what no longer serves you. It means seeing the future as a space for grace, not control. It's the wisdom to hold time loosely and hold God closely, to release the need to solve everything and return to what is. When you live present, you begin to listen better, begin to see people more clearly. You start noticing beauty again. You feel emotions more honestly. You say thank you more often. You forgive more easily. You pause before reacting. You come back home to yourself. This is what Jesus offered people. Not just healing of the body, but restoration of the soul's rhythm. He didn't just say believe. He said, follow me. And to follow him, you have to walk in step. And walking in step means being here. Here, where God speaks in silence. Here, where peace doesn't depend on understanding. Here, where joy returns without reason, where the weight of yesterday softens and the pressure of tomorrow loses power. Here, where grace becomes real, where life becomes full again, where eternity touches time. So if you've been scattered, if your heart has lived in too many places at once, this is your invitation to return, to real time, to holy time, to the now. And in the next part, I'll show you how to begin practicing. Now that you understand the weight of living in the past and the pull of fearing the future, I want to invite you to practice something small and sacred, a way of returning to the now, not as a concept, but as a way of breathing with God. These are not techniques, they are invitations, simple acts where the eternal can meet you. First, begin with awareness. Several times a day, stop and gently ask yourself, where is my attention right now? Is it in something that already happened? Or something that has not happened yet. Without judgment, simply notice. Awareness is not control, it is presence, and presence is the beginning of peace. Second, come back to your breath. Slowly, intentionally, not to perform, but to return. As you breathe in, whisper within, I am here. As you breathe out, say, God is here. Let this be more than an exercise. Let it be communion. Let it be the soft doorway that brings you home. Third, let presence become prayer. You do not need the right words. You just need honesty. You can say, Speak, Lord, I am listening. Or even simpler, I am with you. And that is enough, because the power of prayer is not in your language. It is in your connection. I remember a morning when I sat at the table with a full to-do list and an anxious heart. I felt like I was already behind before the day had even begun. The pressure was loud, but as I sat there in silence, I felt something quiet inside me. Not a sentence, just presence. A calm I could not explain. It reminded me that God does not wait for me to be ready. He meets me where I am, in the mess, in the tiredness, in the now. And sometimes that is all I need to remember. Not how to fix everything, just how to return. How to stop escaping what is real. That is the invitation I give to you now. Not to do more, but to come closer, to step out of the thoughts that rush, to step into the moment that breathes. This is where Christ is, not in your imagined future, not in your remembered past, but in the breath you are living right now. When you learn to live present, something in you begins to settle. You stop fighting time. You stop needing to have all the answers. You begin to experience a quiet kind of trust, a way of walking that is not rushed, a way of loving that is not anxious, a way of living that is rooted. This is not perfection, it is practice. Some days you will be fully here, others, your mind will wander again. But the goal is not to never drift. The goal is to keep returning, again and again, with kindness, with softness, with Christ as your anchor. The present is not empty, it is full of invitation, full of clarity, full of God. When you open your eyes to what is happening now, you begin to see signs you missed before. You begin to feel your own soul waking up. You begin to hear the still small voice again. You were never meant to live scattered. You were created for union, to walk with God, to hear His voice, to feel His nearness, to trust His rhythm. And you can only find that rhythm in the now, not in yesterday, not in what comes next, but here. So when your mind starts to rush again, pause. When fear shows up again, breathe. When regret knocks on your door, gently return. You do not have to stay in those places. You are allowed to come home. Christ is waiting for you, not later, now. Let this be your quiet commitment, not to understand everything, but to live connected. Not to perform faith, but to embody it, to walk in slow surrender, to believe that right here, God is already enough, and that you are already seen. Let today be the day you stop postponing your peace. Let today be the day you stop negotiating with tomorrow. Let today be the day you choose to live awake, even if it is just for a few seconds. Let it begin now, with breath, with presence, with grace. You are not alone in this journey. And if this message spoke to your heart, I invite you to stay close. Subscribe to the channel, not just to follow videos, but to walk together, to grow together, to remember together what truly matters. Because the world is noisy, life is demanding. But here in this space, I pray you find rest, clarity, and the gentle reminder that you do not need to figure it all out to belong. You just need to be here, present, honest, open. If you are still here, I honor you. Your willingness to slow down, to reflect, to stay. This is rare, this is holy, and I believe something has already shifted in you. Something subtle, something sacred. Let it grow. As you return to your day, carry this with you. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to be still. You are allowed to live from the inside out. And every time you forget, remember this one truth. God is in your now. May you never forget the power of this moment. May you learn to live with both feet in the present, eyes on eternity, heart open to Christ. This is how we wake up, not once, but again and again. May God bless you deeply, and may you walk on, awake, with Christ at the center.